Hey everybody, welcome to today's poetry reading. We're actually going to be reading two poems today, so you get a bonus poem because we're talking about a type of poetry called ekphrasis. So we're going to be reading two poems by different poets that are about the same topic. Ekphrasis is a type of poetry in which the poet is writing about a visual work of art. So in this case, we have two different poets, W.H. Auden and William Carlos Williams, who are both writing poems about a painting by the Dutch master Peter Bruegel called Landscape with the Fall of Icarus. So we're going to see how these two different poets approach it from a different perspective. Before we read those poems, though, I want to share with you our painting so that you know exactly what these two poets are writing about. So let me share my screen with you here so we can all see that painting. So this is Bruegel's Landscape with the Fall of Icarus. And one of the first things you might notice about this painting is that there's an awful lot of landscape and not an awful lot of Icarus. A lot of my students have a hard time even finding Icarus in this painting. Why might that be? Well, Auden was he was in the museum and he was looking at a lot of paintings by these old masters and noticing some similarities. That, for instance, a lot of the old masters that he was looking at were very adept at depicting ordinary life, the everyday life of ordinary people. And this painting is no exception. We see a lot of the everyday life of ordinary people, but there's a bit more to it than that. So let's read Auden's poem, which is called Musée des Beaux-Arts, and see what he saw when he looks at this painting and other paintings in the museum. Right, so this is Musée des Beaux-Arts by W.H. Auden. About suffering, they were never wrong, the old masters. How well they understood its human position, how it takes place while someone else is eating, or opening a window, or just walking dully along. How, when the aged are reverently, passionately waiting for the miraculous birth, there must always be children who did not specially want it to happen, skating on a pond at the edge of the wood. They never forgot that even the dreadful martyrdom must run its course anyhow in a corner, some untidy spot where the dogs go on with their doggy life and the torturer's horse scratches its innocent behind on a tree. In Bruegel's Icarus, for instance, how everything turns away quite leisurely from the disaster. The plowman may have heard the splash, the forsaken cry, but for him, it was not an important failure. The sun shone as it had to on the white legs disappearing into the green water, and the expensive, delicate ship that must have seen something amazing, a boy falling out of the sky, had somewhere to get to and sailed calmly on. So you may have spotted Icarus by this point. He's this little guy down here in the lower right corner. You can see a leg sticking up out of the water and part of his other leg. But nobody else in the painting takes any notice of him whatsoever. They all are too busy going about their own business to notice him or stop and help. So Auden really was a modernist poet, and many of his poems are about the feeling of isolation, or alienation that a lot of poets were writing about in the earlier part of the 20th century. And that's what he sees in this painting. So let's take a look at William Carlos Williams' poem, Landscape with the Fall of Icarus. So this is his perspective on this painting. According to Bruegel, when Icarus fell, it was spring. A farmer was plowing his field. The whole pageantry of the year was awake, tingling near the edge of the sea, concerned with itself, sweating in the sun that melted the wing's wax. Unsignificantly, off the coast, there was a splash quite unnoticed. This was Icarus drowning. So again, we have that sense that nobody really notices or cares. Certainly no one's going to help. Ekphrasis can be a really great exercise for aspiring poets. We can often find inspiration in other types of artwork. So if you want to try your hand at some poetry, ekphrasis might be a good place to start. You can start with your favorite work of art and see what you come up with. All right, guys. Well, next time we most likely will be reading a bit more Shakespeare. So we'll see you then.